everyone, I'm James Van Praagh. Nice to see you. A lot of you will recognize me from the person who's a psychic, a medium. I've been around for a long, long time, close to 30 or something years. And my mission here on this earth is to really help you to recognize that you are first and foremost a soul being having this human experience. And really that you as a soul, your natural state is intuition. And that's how you see things, and that's how you live your life, is using this intuition, even though the conscious mind not be aware of it. So my mission, why I came back on this earth, is to be your teacher and your guide. And I've been doing that for so many years around the world with international audiences, teaching them, having workshops, helping them, guiding them in meditations and understanding of the nature of their soul. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I continue to do. I was like you, like so many of you. I remember growing up in my family, I always felt like an outsider. I felt like an outcast because I was so sensitive, and I would see things and know things, and no other people could see them or know them. I felt like a loner. And I remember in my early 20s, I still felt like a loner, and I need to find myself. I need to find my unique expression. And I was always good at writing. I was always good at creating, writing, creating stories, and I always had this sense of, I want to share that with the world. Another thing I had was a good sense of humor. I'm funny. And I thought I would make a living at that. So I decided to go to school and to get a degree in broadcasting and move to California, to Los Angeles, to be a sitcom writer because I'm funny. So I went to school and I worked really hard getting my degree at San Francisco State. And I was promised a job on a TV show back down in Los Angeles after I graduated by a producer who I'd met at the school. So I went back to my home in New York and I got all my stuff. I had to say goodbye to my family. And it was really very, very difficult to make this challenge, make this journey, because I was going to move to a state where I knew nobody. I knew no one. But I knew deep down inside me I had to do something. I had to honor the feeling I was having inside. So what I did was I gathered everything I could from my childhood and put it in the back of a used car, and I said goodbye to my family. Now, something very, very interesting. Things will happen in your life, and the universe will always teach you things. They'll always enlighten you to certain things. The time I was going back from my home state of New York to this new job in California that I was promised, my mother had a stroke. My mother had a stroke and she couldn't speak and she was bedridden. And I had to make a choice. Do I go to Los Angeles for this job or do I stay with my mother? What's going to happen? It was a major destiny point for me. And I knew that my mother would want me to follow my dream. I knew that my mother would want me to follow my intuition. She was very intuitive. So I knew that she wanted me to honor that. So I did. I left. I went and I had to follow my dream. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. And I finally got to Los Angeles, and the people that promised me the job were nowhere in sight. I was in a strange city, in a strange state, not knowing anybody, not knowing where to live, and the person that promised me the job was nowhere to be found. Couldn't track them down, so I was stuck in the city all alone, and I had to make it work. This is before I was really in tune with my intuition or really using that sense of myself professionally. But I knew I had to be there. I knew inside me, deep down, I had to follow this feeling I had of being in this place. And maybe somehow, some way, I'll meet somebody who knows somebody, an agent or a producer, or I could do this type of work. So I knew deep inside me that it was a test, that the universe was testing me in some reason. And I find, even now to this day, so many years later, that's the adversity, it's the hardships, it's the troubles, the struggles that really make us stronger. And it really is the universe testing us, I feel. So I went through a series of jobs, temporary jobs, everything from working in the basement of an ad firm to a legal staff to doing, oh boy. In those days, you had to use whiteout and type and do this typing. I couldn't type. I had to learn typing right away. I remember I did everything, including working in an employment agency. I worked in a hospital. I worked in a library. I worked in all really bad jobs. And it really wasn't until I did a temporary job at a talent agency, and I wasn't even in the mailroom. I was in the basement of the talent agency, and I was pulling staples out of contracts, 8 hours a day, preparing them for what's called microfiche, which don't even have any more microfiche. But I knew, for some reason, again, deep inside me, that intuition, I knew I had to be there for some reason. And it was during this 8 hours, and I made the best of that 8 hours pulling staples out of contracts. I had fun. I had that little joy. I was singing to myself. I was cracking up my co-workers there with some stupid jokes and just having fun. You always got to make the best out of a bad situation. And you always try to find the light in the darkness. And that's what I just knew that. So I really enjoyed myself doing that job that some people could think, wow, it's really menial labor. But I just made the best of it because some of these contracts were Lucille Ball and Groucho Marx and Bing Crosby, and said, wow, they signed that. And I made the best of it. I think we all have to do that. We've got to make the best out of every situation and really not be imprisoned by it, make the best of it. So it was during that time that I met a person who came to the basement of this office, and she said, "Do you want to see a medium?" And I said, "What is a medium?" And she said, "He's someone who talks to dead people." And I'm like, this lady's crazy. I don't believe in that sort of thing. But I just really wanted to humor her. So I decided, okay, I'll go to this meeting to see this medium. And I walked into this medium's apartment, and immediately he looked at me and he said, "You yourself are a medium." And I just moved to California from New York, and I heard that California was a land of fruit and nuts. And I thought, okay, perfect. This guy's crazy. He's a fruit, he's a nut, he's crazy. But he said things to me in this reading that he would not know about. He knew things about family members that had passed over. He knew things about my childhood that nobody knew about. There was something going on with this medium. And he said to me, in 2 years' time, the spirit people are going to use you, James, as an ambassador to the spirit world. They're going to use you as their voice to prove there is life after death. They're going to help use you to change the consciousness of the planet. And I looked at this man, and I looked at my friend who brought me to this meeting. I thought, okay, this is insane. This is crazy. I heard of California and the cults and all this weird stuff, but this is crazy. And what happened was he really got me started to think about meditation, about life after death, about psychic phenomena. I read as many books as I could find on the subject matter because as he was giving me these messages and this insight about my family, my childhood, there was something within me that said, there's something right here. There's something he's clicking onto. There's something that's really, really incredible that he's getting. I don't know where he's getting it from, but something's going on here. So it was up to me to research everything I could find on the subject. I read every book I could find. I really just devoured all the knowledge I could. And I found that throughout all my reading of these books, and this is way before the internet, of course, I remember there was this subject that came up. It was ongoing all the time. And it said, if you want to find your soul's true self, if you want to understand what your journey is and why you're here on this earth, the best way to do that is through meditation. And I thought, wow, meditation. I've heard of meditation, so I thought, I'm going to try to meditate. Didn't know how to meditate. All I knew was it involved the breath. So I remember distinctly visualizing a rose and just inhaling a sense of a rose or the word love and inhaling that energy. And I remember exhaling anything foreign or bad from my energy field or my body. And that's really the start of it. Very informal, but it was just that sense of breathing in the good, letting go of the bad. Yeah? And that's really what it started to be like. I did that probably every day for 10 minutes to 15 minutes, not knowing what I was doing. And I noticed probably after the first several months of doing that I began then to see colors and lights around people. And I began to see forms around people, which we know as spirit. And it was very, very odd because I hadn't seen these things since I was a child. And it was just so, so weird. At the time then, I was working at a studio. I got a job in a contract department, not taking staples out, but actually stapling the contracts. So I was preparing contracts for TV shows. And it was during the lunch break, or right after the lunch break, I remember, my coworker walked into her cubicle right next to mine. And I immediately saw behind her this dead lady, the spirit right behind her. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I hadn't seen that since I was a child. Oh my goodness. And all of a sudden this dead lady looked right at me. And she said telepathically, you need to communicate with my granddaughter. I died. I lived in the house in Indiana. Tell her I'm alive. Please tell her about the needlepoint. Tell her. So I immediately turned to my coworker and said, I hope you're okay with this, but can I ask you a question? And what I did was I told her, I said, there's a lady behind you, and she's talking about this house and all these details. And the girl, the coworker, said, that's my grandmother. She lived at Idaho. She lived in that house. I used to visit her every summer. We did needlepoint together. She actually taught me needlepoint, and we made a footstool cover together. And she made a promise. She said, when I leave this earth, if I'm in heaven and I'm okay, I'll come back and tell you. I'll make it my mission to tell you that. And here she was telling her that she was very, very much alive and there is no death. And I freaked out. I couldn't believe it. I could hear this, I could see this, and it kind of totally freaked me out that I ran out of that workplace, that studio. I ran back to my apartment, which was not too far away, because I didn't know what to do. I thought, wow, I'm different. My life is different. I won't be able to look at people the same way. I won't be able to relate to people the same way. Oh, wow, I'm going back to my childhood when I was a loner, when I was an outcast, when no one would be able to relate to me. I'm going to be here all alone again. So not knowing what to do and who to call, I ended up calling up that medium that gave me that reading. And his name was Brian. And I said, Brian, I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. I saw this dead person next to my coworker, and I told her these things, and she understood everything. And he said, James, it's okay. It's real. I said, Brian, I don't know what to do. And he said, James, don't you remember the prediction that the spirit world gave you? I said, yeah. He said, they told you that prediction that you would be the voice of the spirit world. And he said, James, that was 2 years ago today. So that was it. That was the beginning of my journey. I sat down and said, wow. And it was after that that this medium, Brian, took me under his wing and really sat with me in development and teaching me about the workings, if you will, of spirit communication, working about intuition, how to use energy, how to feel energy, how to discern between your own thoughts and that independent of the spirit world coming close to you, and how to really merge and blend with the mind of the spirit. So you are really the instrument. And that's what he taught me for many years. And I've taken it in like a sponge. And that's my story. And I'm going to be using everything that I was taught and have learned over the many 30 years of doing this work and bring it to you, for you to have a safe place to go to understand, to learn, to know this is real, and that you don't have to feel like you're an outcast, that you're a freak, that you're different than anybody else. Just the opposite. This is who you are. You're a soul being, and your language is intuition, your energy, your pure energy, and I think it's incredible to empower that part of yourself, to be who you are. Remember, what other people think of you is none of your business. It's honoring yourself, living your true life, empowering your being, and I'm here to guide you to do just that. So today, I'd like to share with you 2 tips that have made a significant difference in my life, on my path, which I know will make a big difference on your path. So use these, please, and I just am so excited to share them with you. The first one is this. You have to realize that you are first and foremost a soul having a human experience. So if you can step back and be aware that I'm a soul, I'm not going to think of this in kind of in human terms, but you're outside of the human, okay? So as a soul, you have to realize that you are pure energy. You're this beautiful light, this God light. Let's say a golden light. Okay? And you have to realize that one of the biggest illusions we have in this 3-dimensional world is that we're separate from one another. That's a very human thing. When in reality, we're not separate whatsoever. And when I communicate with the spirit world, they remind all the audiences, they say, you're not separate. You can't look at life that way. So the tip is this. When you see somebody on your path each day, I want you, instead of seeing that human part of them, the outside part of them, I want you to try and discover their God light. Their God light. Go right into their heart and just feel their energy. Feel that oneness, that God light within each person. Now, of course, you're going to have that human part of you kind of get in the way sometimes. And you have to be very, very open and discerning. God is pure love. So I want you to find the God in each person. And remember, nobody appears upon your path by accident. There are no accidents. So anyone who comes upon your path each day is there for a specific reason, whether you're teaching them something or they're teaching you something. There's a connection. So as you find that God light in that person, I want you to try and feel what that connection is to you. What are they teaching you, or what are you teaching them? That's all. Keep it simple and to the point. Tip 2. This second tip is really how to live life in many ways. I've used this to live my life. The hardest part is not doing the tip. The hardest part is remembering to do this, to remembering to live this way. But I'm going to share this with you. Just realize, if you look back at your life, that all life is a series of choices. So if you go back to your life in your teenage years and you move up to what college you went to perhaps, what city did you decide to live in, who did you decide to partner with, what kind of career you decided to go into, where did you end up living, so forth and so on. It's all a matter of choices. It's different choices that you made along the way. And I will say this to you, all choices are based upon two things, either love or fear. That's it. There's nothing more. So if you look back at your life, you see what choices you made dependent upon what other people thought of you, not having enough money, you want to be known by somebody, you want to please somebody. Those are fear-based because you worry what people think about you. Or is it just, I'm going to be an artist, or I'm going to go do this type of work. I know my parents or society won't like it, but that's okay. I have to be true to myself. That's love, okay? Love is your natural state of being. It's a natural vibration of the soul. Love. Fear is not. Fear is false. Fear, F-E-A-R, false ego appearing real. It is not your natural state of being. So if you make a choice based upon fear, you won't be happy. But if you make a choice based upon love, that sense of self, who you are, and it's just according to you, then you'll be happy because you'll be in alignment with your natural state of being, which is love. That's your soul's energy, love. So, tip 2, all the choices in your life you make should be in love, not fear. Look back and see how you've lived so far in your life. How many choices are based on fear? How many choices are based on love? And look for yourself. Make a little list and see how your life has been implemented using fear and using love. You'll be very surprised and very shocked. So, moving on, love is what you're going to do. I would love for you to share with all of us your comments about how your life has changed using love or using fear, or starting with fear and then changing it to love. It is through your comments and your insights that this community can learn from each other. And that's what this is all about. It's sharing back and forth. So please use the comments down below here on Facebook because it's really important. I am so involved in this community, and I want you to be involved in this community because it is truly through each other we all grow and we all learn. Thank you so much for joining me. Tune into the next video, which will be about reading auras and colors and how to interpret them. This is James Van Praagh, your spiritual guide and teacher to the James Van Praagh School of Mystical Arts, Psychic and Intuitive Development, Certification Level 1. I'll see you in a few days.